When you can drive a truck as tough as Jeep, why drive anything else?
Why drive just a truck?
When Jeep gives you a durability record that even Ford, Chevy, and Dodge can't match.
Don't worry, lady, the Jeep's okay.
Why drive just a truck when you can drive a Jeep?
I don't want to just restore this Jeep into its original glory. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. I want to take advantage of these killer classic Jeep truck looks, but I want to put it on a chassis that is bulletproof and known for its strength, its durability, and its ability to get the job done.
First project in the new shop. I'm super hyped, and we're not done moving. It's an absolute disaster outside of my shop, but I have all of my things in the same county, so check. We're technically moved, but I want to take a break from moving. I've been doing it for months and months and months, and start building. We've got a sweet pile of parts that I have been accumulating over the last few months. We've got a Warren 8274, absolute perfect winch for a truck of this age, in my opinion. Got the NP 205 from old Ford, and then the NP 203 from an old Dodge. We're gonna marry these together, and I'm hoping that the 23 spline NP 203 will marry up to the back of our transmission. I don't know, in this first video, I really want to cut this and remove the bed so we can actually see what the wheelbase is gonna look like, but I think the very first thing I need to do at this point is gonna be locating all these body mounts.
I had Matt do a little bit of demo just to get things cleared out in a way that we can start to move forward once it gets into the new shop. And then the bare minimum requirements was just that the axle will stay underneath it while it's being transported to my new property. So for now, we have two giant brackets that are holding on the factory Super Duty control arms and whatnot to be able to make it to where we could roll this around, but I'm still kind of up in the air. I like the cost savings of these giant radius arms in the front, but I don't like the low profile when it comes to off-road performance. In any case, I've been collecting parts in the meantime. You saw the pile of used parts, but I'm also getting lockers, ring and pinions, all this stuff delivered. And now, before I can decide how we're going to mount this body, if we need to like shove it forward or back or anything, I need to figure out if I can get a cooling package that's going to work with it the way it sits right now. I can't really establish a placement for all of these body mounts until I confirm fitment on like a cooling package and all that other stuff. I think that because of the limited amount of space, I'm gonna have to do air to water intercooler setup. It's just gonna be the easiest way to give this a cold intake charge. But for the radiator, there's no chance that the factory Cummins radiator is gonna fit in this the way it sits now, the way I need it to sit. So I'm looking at other options online, and I'm just measuring out some dimensions to see what I think is gonna work. Obviously, this truck needs to be easy to work on. I hate putting together something where it's really difficult to work on. My Samurai is a great example of that. Everything's just so tight, and it's built like a race car, so there's no removable cross members. This is gonna be the opposite. There's space in front of the engine, just enough where I should be able to bury the radiator into this grill a little bit, and then have enough space where I could remove a serpentine belt or replace a water pump on the trail, something like that. And then there's also enough room behind the engine where we could still like remove the valve cover easily. We can still access all of the bolts that go between the engine and transmission on the bell housing. And there's even like an injector line back there. All of it looks like it's going to be really easy to work on based on this engine's location. Well, I guess I should say based on the body's location in relationship to the engine. So we are making some big sacrifices in front of the motor because, I'm not gonna be able to put like an air-to-air intercooler or anything like that, but I think that it's a happy medium and a really nice compromise to make it to where we can work on this very easily going forward if we do all the hard work now. Feel like I officially have a starting point for this truck, and that is radiator. Believe it or not, radiator helped me decide on whether or not the way we have this body mounted is going to work, and it definitely will. If I need more cooling, then I'll probably do like a giant oil cooler with a fan across it, so it'll basically have like, I don't know, 2 radiators kind of thing. we'll be able to cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, I think that I've got something that is going to work, and I can start to figure out how I want to address these front frame horns. They seem low to me, but it's because there's no bumper on it. So I need to make a decision on whether or not I need to raise up the frame horns in some way or build it up and then chop it off the bottom. So I'm going to remove this worn 8274 off of this bumper that was like clearly just chopped off of whatever truck it came from. And once we get that free, I can kind of like line it up and see, is this winch big enough that it's going to make it easy to blend this lower frame section with the grill, or am I going to have to do some chopping and re-welding and moving of things in order to make it all look right? I got 2 bolts undone, but the other 2 you can't even like access. So I'm gonna, they like made their own fairleads. So I'm gonna take apart the fairlead and hope that I have access to those other bolts in there. I bought this cabin chassis corporate 14 bolt axle from a dude on Facebook Marketplace, and when I got there, he had a ton of trucks and a ton of parts. I asked him if he happened to have an 8274 laying around. He had this one, but we didn't have a way to test it. Nothing was like moving really. It seemed like it was pretty locked up. So I got a screaming deal on it, but the caveat is we're absolutely gonna have to fix this winch in some way. So right now, I'm just kind of like soaking down all the seams and everything with WD-40 because this was just like laying in a mud puddle in a field. And I'm hoping that over the next week, stuff will soften up a little bit. And then whenever I go through and decide to pull this apart and repair it, it'll be a little bit easier to pull apart. So it looks like I'm gonna have to trim that in order to make this sit back a little farther. God damn it. Like, how high do we go with it? Does that look all right there?
Yeah.
Or would it look better if it was higher?
Do you want it higher or?
I mean, I don't know.
Or,
I guess I'm just looking for looks right now.
yeah, it's such a funky winch. I don't know.
It's so funky. Very heavy too.
All of this looks reasonable so far though. That,
Like right there would be a pretty good spot.
yeah.
Well, then I might not have to move the frame. I was originally thinking that was too low. But I mean, by the time you build a bumper into that, that's not actually that low.
Yeah, I mean the fairlead will be, that looks appropriate.
Yeah, it's a big chunks. I mean, probably have, I don't even know. It's gonna be hard to make it look right, but we're thinking there, huh?
I mean, I like it.
I think.
I mean, you could go lower if you want, but
It would still look right down there. These are the kinds of conversations that are being had all over the world with gearheads. We're spending so much time trying to figure out just the right placement of this or that, or should we chop this and move it, or is it cool where it is? And this is where the time goes. It's amazing if you look at all the hours you could put in a project during a week and you just don't even feel like you got as far as you needed to, but it's because of these moments where you're trying to work through some of the finer details as you're going, because it makes a huge difference by the end of the project. So we've got probably a week or two of a lot of this back and forth to really figure out every single little nook and cranny of this, and then the other stuff we couldn't figure out will hopefully be resolved along the way. You might remember at the beginning of the video when I said that I want to chop this thing in half. Like, I've been thinking about cutting and splicing this frame back together and how I want to accomplish this for a while. So I got my freshly ordained apprentice laid out on what I need him to do, and then Nick and I worked on getting this bed removed so then we can remove the fuel tank and the exhaust and all the other stuff to make it to where we can get a game plan together and decide how much we're going to chop. this bed looks like it's in way better shape than it actually is. This is a bunch of bed liner, painted over rusty stuff, in a bed that is splitting apart.
Nick, dinner's on me. We got $18.
$18.
Now that we're back in the shop, we're in the planning stages. And like I just keep saying, we're early in this build. There is a lot of sitting and staring at this truck. But we're doing some basic demo as we're working. So as I'm really considering this path or that path, we can get some easy work done. I've just got a podcast in. I'm building things in my mind. I want to talk about what like my general vision is for this truck, and then we'll just keep on seeing what we can get done. I would like to have this chopped and glued back together by the end of the video.
An inch? Less than an inch?
That could definitely be moved over.
You got more than an inch over.
I like this because it's cool, but goddamn is it impractical. It's bed space. I wonder how hot it gets.
I think you can see where the next thing is going. We need to chop this thing in half. So I'm getting Nick started on cutting off all these brackets. We might reuse some, we might not. And while he's doing that, I've got a whole bunch of like forklift work to do to get a bunch of the stuff from my move out of my way so I can drag this J10 corpse back out here. We haven't fully committed to bed like J10 bed or custom flatbed. I think that custom flatbed won in the votes for the last video that we did on this truck, but I think that I don't want to say recount, but I do think that we should like plop this factory J10 bed on here, and then you and me can talk about it in the comments. Which path is going to work the best once we see this actually in place on this truck?
So we're at 26 inches. I think that's exactly what we came up with last time.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to be in a situation one day where you might need to chop a frame in half and re-glue it back together, here are my just very basic recommendations as a YouTuber, not as an engineer. You want to do this in a section that's as flat as possible. So you can see we've got a nice long uniform section here that's going to make it a lot easier to glue back together, because even though this looks like it's identical, there are lots of tiny variations in frames. So I know that what's going to happen is I'm going to chop this, I'm going to shorten it, and there's going to be parts of this frame that are going to line up perfect from the front section to the back section, and there's going to be other ones that are going to be just slightly off by like an 1/8 inch or something like that. That what we'll do is we'll tack in the sections that are perfect to lock them in place, and then I'll use a porta power and a torch, and we're going to stretch and try to get these connection points as absolutely perfect as possible. Once that is achieved, I can build some fish plates, we can grind things down after it's all welded, and I've got a strategy of how to make this nice and strong again.
Daddy!
What's up, buddy?
Are you ready to go to dinner?
Okay. Give me just a couple minutes. You want to watch me cut this truck in half?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys stand back though.
Okay. I'm gonna send this trail. Oh, I can't believe you cut that quick in half.
That's right. You cut.
I bet that could cut the finger off for sure.
That could cut a finger off if you made it.
Yeah, if it can cut off metal, it can definitely cut off a finger.
For sure.
The work-life balance is very difficult, and it's my birthday today. So I'm going to step out. Nick is going to clean up some things while I'm gone to get it ready for us to start to, glue these two sides back together. And I'm going to have a birthday dinner with my family. But as soon as I get back, it's game time.
This truck is stumpy looking, but it is so cool. I'm such a dually nerd. It's like I want to call Onyx and be like, hey, can I build something else? Because I want to turn this into a weird stumpy little tow truck. It's so rad right now. Anyway, I'm getting ready to throw some tacks in this thing. So I've got a whole plan of how to marry these two sections back together. And I have a whole lot of reasons why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it. But I don't think I'm going to have time to lay out a full explanation in this video. So the next one, I'm going to lay that out. Right now, what I want, just because I'm giddy and very excited, is I'm gonna throw some fat tacks on this thing. We're gonna pull off all these clamps and all this stuff. And I know that I said that we're gonna vote on whether or not to use the truck bed, which is behind you, or to use a, to build like a custom flatbed, but I just gotta throw this bed on there before I make a decision. We gotta throw this on here. We should probably talk about this one more time. Do we wanna use the J10 bed or do we wanna use the flatbed? I'd like to introduce Dirt Reynolds. And I'm sure a few of you are wondering, why would you name this truck Dirt Reynolds? I like punny names. Puns make me laugh. This, as many of you might remember, was Girth Brooks for obvious reasons. Very wide. This truck was bananas wide. Super fun truck. I love this truck still, but last week it got into a very nasty accident. I've got a whole video about it, including like the rescue and everything, but I'm waiting to hear back from the insurance company so I can put a bow on it, and then you and I both know what's going to happen to this truck moving forward. It's 99% sure this thing's totaled. So anyway, this isn't about Girth Brooks, this is about Dirt Reynolds. This is a cabin chassis 14 bolt out of a Chevy square body, and this is a dually rear axle, but it is the narrowest dually rear axle that you can find from the factory. It's 63 inch wheel mount surface to wheel mount surface, and I believe this is like 69 inch or 72. Shoot, I can't remember now that I think about it. But anyway, this is much narrower, which is going to make it to where the tire, the outer tire, isn't going to hang out very far past the edge of the bed if we want to stick with the J10 bed. And this is where you guys come in. In the last episode of this build series, we had a vote in the comments section. I haven't tallied it up yet, but there are a lot of people saying, dude, build a flatbed for this thing. And I totally hear that. It makes more practical sense as far as for a wheeler. You know, it'd be a bummer to put this into a tree, which will inevitably happen. But with a flatbed, you put it into a tree, so what? It's just steel, you know, tube steel, like square tube or rectangular, whatever the situation may be. This front tire is going to be out quite a bit because those of you that have never owned dualies probably don't know. Dualies, the front axle always has these giant, like these are like 6-inch wheel spacers that are from the factory. And so I plan on putting that back on here. We just need to re-drill the Ford Super Duty front end to 8 on 6.5, and then this will be out like where it's gonna actually look right. The plan is 37s, maybe 40s if I could find an unbelievable deal and I could somehow magically make them fit. I'm almost 99% sure it's gonna be 37s. And I think that the outer part of the tire is gonna stick out like an inch or so, which would look really nice up here. The rear tire, because of how much narrower the rear axle is, but we're still going to be widening things with the 37s and whatnot, I'm thinking probably 3 inches or so of tire poke without modifying the fender too much. So I don't know. Unless we go flatbed, then of course I'll have 100% control over the tire poke situation. It's funny, on camera this looks crazy tall, but this is like the exact same height as a factory second gen Dodge. The 4x4 second gens are this height. Like the door right now in relationship to me is exactly this. Well, you know what, we can go look at one. This truck is stock height. See, we got like the wheel well openings just look a little different, but it's a tall truck from the factory. And so, you know, there's no front suspension in that thing right now. I have it set to where it's the same height as a stock Dodge pickup truck from this era. And they're just tall trucks. But once you build out bumpers, once you know, put the right size tires in there and everything, this truck isn't going to look near as tall and goofy, because I mean, look at this. This looks like just a normal truck going down the road. So I know that right now it might be difficult to visualize how this is going to turn out, but it should look pretty ridiculously sweet when it's all said and done. I think it looks so cool. I hope that you can see what I can see. It's not there yet, but it is starting to turn into something. So let me know what you think. I'm very interested to see what your opinions are this year. Last year, I tried to keep the build tame. I tried to get as much truck as you could do with like as factory components as you could possibly use, and it blew up in my face. Most people weren't into it. You guys wanted to see a more detailed build. So this year, we're going ham. There's gonna be so many different facets of this truck that we're gonna get very detailed, and we're rebuilding everything. It's gonna be an outstanding series that I'm very excited for. By the way, if you wanna come on the Onyx Build Challenge with us at the end of this thing, you can go sign up to be a wild card. So throw your build. You don't have to start your build with us. Your build can already be done. And then just go fill out the application form at onyxmaps.com and submit, and maybe we'll see you in October whenever we go round up all these trucks and have fun together. So anyway, let me know what you think of the build. I'm very curious to see if you can picture what I'm picturing. Let me know about the bed. Again, I apologize for having you vote multiple times, but just let me know what you think of the bed. And speaking of voting, if you want to see us win this thing this year and you like what we're doing, please vote for Team Dirt Lifestyle in the link in the description, or the link, and I'll post the link in the comments. It's like onyxmaps.com. If you Google like Onyx Build Challenge voting, you'll probably get there. Thank you so much to Onyx for sponsoring this series. We'll see you guys on the trail.